Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So, today is one of those videos that I have been planning to make for such a long time, and to be honest, I constantly get asked this type of questions, so I thought I just might put all of this in one video. Maybe you have been already sewing for some time, but doesn't mean that you definitely have all accessories that comes with the sewing, you know. We tend to accumulate more things as we continue this sewing journey and as we make more and more projects. But first of all, I want to say, take it with a grain of salt what I'm going to show you today, because this is based on my personal experience and my personal needs. But I strongly believe that all the things that I'm going to present to you are things that will make your life much easier and sometimes cut out an unnecessary stress. First of all, before I start talking about all of those things, and I don't want to make it too long because I have many things here in front of me, but I just want to say the link to my Amazon store will be down below, and there will be a separate list of sewing accessories in case that you really want something and you don't have it until now, then you can easily find it there. Okay, let's start with the first and in my opinion the most important thing, which is planning the project. And to prepare for a project is to just have a simple notepad where you can write your list of things that you need. You can do your sketches, you can understand the construction of the garment a little bit more if you sketch it, you know. You need to know what you are going to do, because a guessing game usually will end up going against you. So it's better to be ready. Whenever I see a bigger notepad like this, I always buy it. Now let's continue with the cutting tools, which are definitely necessary. I'm not going to be bothering you so much by repeating the same thing that you hear from everywhere all the time. One shears for the paper and one for the fabric. I don't think that you need to splurge on it, but also don't buy yourself the cheapest option. I think something in between 15 and 30 euros or dollars can get you a nice pair that will hold long if you take care of it, of course. Another thing that you probably get recommended a lot is pair of pinking shears. You know, they have this kind of funny teeth, and they are used for finishing the seams, kind of like preventing the seams from fraying. But maybe this will be not very popular opinion. I just find them useless. And I will tell you why. First of all, of course, I have a serger, so I don't need this at all. But I know many of you don't have the serger. You know, it's kind of a big investment. It's the best thing you will ever do if you sew often, but let's say you don't have one and you are not going to buy one. I would way more prefer if you try to find the ways how to finish your seams. I am not suggesting you to buy this pair of pinking shears. For me, they are just collecting dust. The next thing for cutting is these rotary cutters. This is one of the best things. This is one of the best things I have ever bought since I started to sew. As you can see, I have two sizes here, the bigger one and the smaller one. Smaller one is more handy when you are cutting smaller pattern pieces. You don't need necessarily two, just choose the size that is better for you. Once you have it, you will mostly use this because it's also much faster in my opinion. Of course, with the owning rotary cutter, it will bring you immediately to buying a cutting mat. I think the bigger the better. If you buy a small one, you will find very quickly that you are just struggling because, of course, some pattern pieces are quite big, quite long. I know they can be quite expensive, so I try to find some affordable option for you. As I said, the link will be down in the description. I highly recommend you, if you have a little bit of extra money, buy it. It will save you time and it will save you a lot of frustration, especially working with the flimsy fabrics. The next accessory brings me back to cutting shears. Get yourself sharpener. I personally have this one from Fiskars. It's a really good one, and I have to say I probably saved my shears already a couple of times. I can see a huge difference when I sharpen them. It's nothing complicated, so definitely get yourself one if you can. And the last cutting accessory will be some type of shears like that for cutting thread at the end. It's more comfortable to have something smaller, so there are many options. I linked a couple of them in my Amazon list. The next very important thing that you will definitely need within your first project is some type of measuring tools. I personally use this retractable one. What I like about it, that on one side it has centimeters and on the other side it has inches. So in case I quickly need to work with one or another, I don't have a problem with that. And it's quite small, easy to store. So personally I have this one. There are many different measuring tools that you can buy. Personally, I'm just going to show you my two most favorite ones. The first one is this. I don't know what is the name of it, but I think that it's mostly used for quilting. But I use this a lot for adding seam allowance, for example, and generally when I'm drawing my patterns and stuff like that. So this is definitely one of my suggestions. And the next ruler that I'm using quite a lot is called French curve. It is used for neckline, armhole, sleeve cup, hip line, waistline. There is a lot of things that you can use this ruler for, especially I think if you are adjusting patterns or you are making patterns by yourself, which I do a lot. I don't regret buying this. I use it with every single project I make. Okay, let's talk about something very small but super necessary. Let's talk about pins. These are the two types that I would personally always buy because you can use them for any types of fabric. You don't have to worry even for the thinnest and the most fragile fabrics. These ones are from the brand Prim. They have a glass head so you can iron over them, and they are super thin, so even the thinnest fabrics like silk will be okay with these pins. And something more affordable but also way better than cheap plasticky ones. So these are like very simple tailor's pin, so still very thin, great for every fabric. They are quite sharp. I just love these and they are really inexpensive. Talking about pins, it brings me to one of my most favorite accessories that I bought. I have to say I didn't have this one at the beginning, but it didn't take me long to buy. Basically it is magnetic holder for your pins. I tend to lose a lot of pins. In our old apartment we had these wood floors, but kind of old with a lot of spaces in between, so I was constantly losing my pins, falling into these little spaces. This little magnet saved a lot of pins and also saved me a lot of time by quickly collecting all the pins on my table, under the table, everywhere. This is such a, I think, underestimated but very useful tool to have. Okay, let's move to markers. You will need something to mark your fabric, and let me just tell you, there is basically not one universal thing that works perfectly on every type of fabric. There are certain type of fabrics that I will prefer to use just a simple chalk. For example, I'm working with a wool. Usually this is what I will go for. It makes nice sharp lines. It is very easy to remove. I also like to use friction pens because they come in so many different colors. I will give you a link for a set. I think it's good to have at home. Personally, I never had a bad experience with it, but definitely I first suggest you to try it on a little scrap of fabric. Another of my favorites are these markers. They are also really sharp, so you can do nice details for the buttonholes and things like that. These are water soluble. I have also in my collection ones that go away by itself with a certain amount of hours. I don't have it next to me right now, but I will also link it down below. And going back to chalk, if this is not an option that you like to use, I suggest you this pen, which has also chalk inside. Right now I don't have it very sharp, but mine came with a little sharpener which works really great. So whenever I need to do some detail, I can just quickly sharpen it and it works really great. Mine also came with different colors, so again, whatever fabric I have, I can find an option that will be good to use. It's one of those things that in a moment I need it, I appreciate so much that I have it. Let's go to the thread. I am one of these people who will always suggest you to go first to the thrift stores and find any sewing materials there first, because let me tell you, you can find so many great things there for a fraction of the price. But one thing I wouldn't suggest you to buy, it's old thread. It's full of dust, usually it's not strong anymore, and generally speaking, saving money on thread is not the way to go. So if you want to save yourself a lot of frustration, a lot of problems, just go ahead, buy yourself a nice thread. And the brand that I always recommend is Gutermann. It's good for most of the projects. Another thing that I suggest you to buy right from the beginning is some set of empty bobbins, because I ran so quickly out of mine. My sewing machine came maybe with 3 or 4 pieces, and as I went through a couple of projects right at the beginning, I quickly realized that I don't have enough bobbins for different colors. So if you can get yourself a set of empty ones, I think you will do yourself a big favor. I was trying to be very cheap at the beginning and I bought a plastic ones. I definitely do not recommend. They break very easily. I also find that they don't move so nicely inside the case for the bobbin. I would just stick with the classic metal ones. Speaking of bobbins, one of the things that I love so much is some kind of compartments for your bobbins, because first I just put them in my drawer and very quickly they were all tangled between each other. If you can get yourself any little box that can store your bobbins like this, I think you will again save yourself a lot of frustration and you will keep your drawers nice and tidy. Another thing that you will definitely have to buy at the beginning is some spare needles. Universal ones are, I think, the best. First, of course, check which ones are compatible with your sewing machine. Of course, the best friend and the biggest enemy, the love and hate line, is very thin. It doesn't really matter which one you will choose, so get yourself a couple. Another tool that I cannot live without is a tracing tool, and I don't know, you tell me, do you have it? Do you use it? What is your opinion? I personally use it a lot. I use it when I need to transfer the pattern from the fabric that I drape on my dress form and I need to make physical paper copy, so this comes very handy. Another thing when it comes to cutting patterns or your fabric, you need some weights, and as you know, most of the weights, they are very expensive. You always have a pack of 2 or 3 and you need more than that. I personally use these washers. Thank you, Shelly, for informing me about the name, because I didn't know the English name for them. You will for sure find them maybe in a Home Depot and stores like that. They are made of metals. They are quite heavy. You have usually many different sizes and they are very, very inexpensive, so you can buy yourself few pieces. I definitely recommend buying these over very expensive weights. Okay, let's move to one of my most favorite categories, which is pressing tools. Many beginners don't own at all this kind of tools, because maybe you're questioning yourself if it's really something that you really need. And I am saying this because I was one of these beginners. It took me time to buy it, but once I had it, I realized how necessary it is for me and what a difference it makes when you press your seams nicely, when you give them nice shape. Definitely your garment looks so much better, and when you have certain curves, pressing your garment on a flat surface is kind of complicated. This is called tailor's ham. What it does, it gives you a nice rounded surface to press on, but not only that, the inside is made of sawdust, which means that it attracts the steam, it takes it away from the fabric, and it also takes away the heat from the fabric, so your piece will stay nice and flat, and of course it helps you to press these more curvy seams. Another thing that I have, I don't know the name of this one. This is also very helpful. I personally find it great when I'm sewing pants and I need to iron the crotch seam or the side seam, whatever. I find it very helpful. I just slide it inside the leg and I can press my seams very nicely. Also, maybe for the sleeves as well, it works really nice. Definitely very helpful thing to have. Another thing that is usually very expensive one, clappers. I think it's called clappers. It is usually made from certain type of wood. Maybe it's a walnut or oak wood, I'm not sure, but this one is not professional. It's my dad, he made it for me. However, it works perfect. What you use it for is, for example, if you are trying to press some seams flat, you will find that there are certain types of fabric that are not behaving their best. They just don't want to stay flat. Here comes this tool that will help you to keep the seams really nice and pressed. And how you use it is very simple. You iron the seam, you put it on the top, and you wait a couple of seconds. The heat and the steam will be absorbed by the wood. As I said, they are usually quite expensive, but if you have any handyman in your surrounding, ask him to make you something like that. It will be so helpful for you. And trust me, not only for making coats and jackets. Another thing that I found very helpful to have is some kind of organizer for the buttons. As you will be sewing, you will find yourself with a big collection. To find a way how to organize them is way to go. And when it comes to buttons, I definitely suggest you to first ask your grandma or your mom or anyone in your family if they have some kind of little jar with the extra buttons that they have been collecting. And if you still don't have enough, then go to a thrift store. I personally found so many of these buttons in a thrift store for ridiculous price compared to new ones. And the one last thing that I want to mention today is something, I will say it from beginning, is absolutely not necessary at all, especially if you do sewing just from time to time and you stick with very simple projects. So this is definitely not for you. But if you are the type of beginner that is very brave, is ready to take on any project, is constantly looking for new challenges, then grab yourself one of these sets of sewing feet for your sewing machine. Check if it's compatible with the brand of your sewing machine. This is the most important. But I know these ones are not the best quality that you will find, but for the price you are going to pay, you will get so many of them. And as you will continue your sewing journey, you will do a lot of different projects with many different techniques, and you will realize that many of these feet are so helpful. I will also link it down below. If you want it, you can find it there. So with that said, I don't want to say that you need all of these things, otherwise you cannot start sewing. I didn't have all of them right at the beginning when I started, but today when I look back, I can definitely say that I wish so much I had many of these things from the beginning, because let me just tell you, I was really struggling. I just hope that I could help somehow to some of you who are starting to sew. So this was the purpose of today's video. I hope that you liked it. If you did, don't forget to give a like to this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you are not. Thank you again and see you soon. Bye guys.